Hey friend, it's Min. This is Peperomia Polybotrya, otherwise known as the Raindrop Peperomia. We are going to propagate it together with clean clippers. I'm going to get my cuttings. So I'm going to do leaf cuttings. So with the leaf cuttings there, I want to cut the petioles as close to the main stem as possible. I'm going to cut away all the damaged leaves. The reason for I'm doing that is damaged leaves are perfect for propagation and also cleans up the look of my mother plant. I'm also going to do a stem propagation. With a stem propagation, you want to make sure that the stem has at least one node, even better 2 or 3 nodes on the stem. And I just found that the propagation just worked a lot faster if there was 2 or 3 nodes rather than just one node on the stem. Nodes are also located where the leaves grow out of, and also nodes are located on the stem where there's a slight bump on the actual main stem of the plant. I'm going to cut about 1 inch below the node, which is about 1.5 centimeters below the node. Once I have my my cuttings, I'm going to prepare the soil. The soil mixture I'm using today consists of 50% potting mix and 50% perlite. I'm using a plastic nursery pot that has a lot of drainage holes in it. Definitely try and avoid pots that don't have drainage holes because peperomia are very susceptible to overwatering and that can lead to root rot. And if you don't happen to have perlite, you can substitute it for things like pumice or cacti soil. They work very well as similar to the perlite. Once I have my cuttings there, I've seen some people with the actual leaves, they cut the leaves in half or sometimes even quarter. They cut the petiole off. And you can certainly do that, but today I'm just going to leave the petiole on because I'm just a bit lazy and I can't be bothered cutting the petioles. And once I have my soil mixture prepared, I'm going to dab the actual ends of the cutting into rooting hormone. And some people will skip the rooting hormone. And I just find that with the plant rooting hormone, for myself, the cutting actually worked a lot faster compared to without it. So if you don't happen to have rooting hormone at home, then just skip it. If you do happen to have it, then use it. It just makes it a lot faster for the cuttings to grow healthy roots and stronger roots as well. Once I've dipped it into rooting hormone, I'm just going to create a little hole in the soil, pop the cutting in and just backfill it up. With the actual stem cutting, I'm going to also dip it into rooting hormone. There is a node that's at the very bottom of the stem. I have actually gotten rid of a couple of stems above it because you don't want to actually put the leaf into the soil because that can actually rot the leaves. You just want to pop the node into the soil. So once I've created a little hole, I'm going to pop that stem into the soil as well. I'm going to do the same with all the other cuttings. Once that's done, I've seen people use some Glad wrap or plastic coverings to cover the actual propagation. And what that does, it creates like a greenhouse effect. And so it increases the humidity and also keeps the propagation more warm. For myself, I've just found that it's an unnecessary step and I just found that it's more likely that the propagation can rot. But if you want to try it out, certainly try it out. Pop a plastic Glad wrap over it or plastic covering and see if that works better compared to not having a covering over it. Then I pop the propagation into an area where it receives some direct morning sunlight and definitely no harsh afternoon sunlight because peperomia are still susceptible to sunburn, especially the harsh afternoon sunlight. It can handle a couple hours of morning direct sunlight, and then making sure that the soil stays moist for a couple of weeks. Then after that, go back to the normal routine of letting the soil completely dry before watering the plant. This one here is a propagation I did about 6 weeks ago. It has lots of roots. Also, it's growing little plantlets. So these shoots are coming out of the bottom of the stem are plantlets. They're the new peperomia plants. And you can see this leaf here that I used for propagation is almost completely damaged. And so damaged leaves are perfect for propagation. You'll probably find that later on that the original leaf that's used for propagation will wilt away, but then you have lots of plantlets to replace and grow a new plant out of. This one here, this propagation is about 3 months old, and you can see there's lots of plantlets growing out of it. The actual leaf here was not really a damaged leaf, so you can see it's still growing, it's still working very well and producing new plantlets. So you find that if you do have a leaf propagation, you get plantlets out of it. It won't continue to grow from the actual leaf, it'll grow little baby plants. If you happen to have a stem propagation, with a stem propagation, it can either grow little baby plants or little plantlets, or it can continue to grow from the actual stem, especially if there's 2 or 3 nodes on the actual original stem. It can grow out new leaves from that area. So that's how to propagate a Peperomia raindrop. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe and also watch this video here where I show you how to propagate a Calissia repens pink panther.